Hi, my name's Catherine Akelny and I have my own independent sheep consultancy business, Kane Consulting, and I'm based in Neillandilo in Carmarthenshire. I do a lot of work travelling throughout Wales with Farming Connect on various projects. And we're here today as part of a rotational grazing and lamb shearing project. And so what we've done is I'm working in conjunction with Gareth Davis, who obviously does more of the grassland side of things. And what we're doing is we've got 500 lambs that have gone onto the project. They started it a month ago, and at that point we weighed all the lambs. And we're going to then monitor their growth rate on the rotational grazing and things like finish dates and that kind of thing. But the other interesting thing we're doing is with the 500 lambs, we've had half of them shorn and half of them not shorn. So as well as looking at rotational grazing, we're also going to look at the impact of shearing and how that affects lamb growth rates. And I know there are quite a few flocks who do shear lambs over the summer. And in general, we would expect that to have a positive impact on the lambs in terms of growth rate, because what happens when you shear the lambs is they do tend to eat more. I have, though, had some experiences where people have shorn, like last year when we had bad weather. So I would say in that case, it can often knock the lambs back a lot. So it definitely is something to sort of play by ear a little bit. And the other thing as well to watch is the effect that's going to have in terms of sort of selling the lambs. So whether it actually affects their value in terms of carcass and skins. So it's worth just sort of thinking about how far lambs away from finishing, and maybe checking with your lamb buyer to see if it's going to devalue. Although we don't get paid for skins as producers, that actually goes towards what the sort of the returns the abattoir will be getting. So today I've been out here and it's our second lamb weighing. So it's really seeing how the lambs have done over the last month. And what I've done is we've got them weighed on the electronic weigh scales, and as we've gone along, that's both collected the weight of the lambs today, and it also shows what they weighed a month ago and their weight gain. So the next step now is I'm going to download that onto the computer, which is a really quick and easy job, and that'll then put it into an Excel spreadsheet, and from that then I'll start as an indication, I suppose, in terms of how the lambs are doing. But just from looking through the lambs and looking at the kind of weights we're getting, we've both got hill lambs and we've got mule lambs in this group as well. At the moment I can't tell if there's any effective shearing. I'll need to look at the data in more detail for that. But at the moment I think that the hill lambs are probably doing about sort of 150 to 200 grams a day, and the mule lambs are probably doing about 250 grams a day. So there is a slight difference. And in terms of when the lambs went on, I think the average weight of the hill lambs was about 25 kilos. So they were very much hill lambs, sort of hill store lambs coming down to this farm. And I think the mule lambs were more like sort of 32, 35 kilos. So obviously quite a big difference there. So the mules and some of the few Texas crosses, they were actually going to start being drawn more or less straight away now. So, but in terms of the actual weight gain, to put it into sort of practical side of things, most of the lambs have put on about 4 or 5 kilos. And I think the biggest lambs have put on 10 kilos in the last month. So they're really sort of looking, there'll be hopefully a draw this week and then look to do another draw in a couple of weeks' time. So there's been some fairly consistent growth rates. Probably 90% of the lambs have put on weight. One of the interesting things we can do with this piece of kit is that because we see the weight gain from every lamb that comes through, anything that loses weight or hasn't gained weight, we're pulling out to one side and having a look at it, and there is a little bit of lameness coming through, so we can deal with that individually as well. So it's easy to miss them when they're all coming in, big mob of 500 lambs, it is quite easy to miss them. But when we can see that, it gives us a chance to pull them out and have a look at them. So but the other thing that's been really interesting is the variation, and I would expect to see that. So we talk in averages, but actually the variation has been anything from sort of 50 grams a day. I think the fastest growing lamb has done 400 grams a day. So there's various causes for that, and we're not really going to identify what they are, but part of that is genetics and breeding, and sort of if there's any been compensatory growth and gut fill and all sorts of things. But it just shows how much variation there is. And what I tend to say when we look at how flocks are performing and how lambs are performing, and obviously there's pressure on lamb production costs, but actually there's sheep in every flock that are making money. So those fast growing lambs are making money for whatever farm they're on, and it's the slower growing ones. So if we can start trying to work out why those lambs are growing more slowly, and probably some of it is what's happened during the summer in terms of they've had worm problems or that kind of thing, or the ewes not milk very well, or she's had mastitis. So it's just trying to sort of you got to look back to the whole season really and try and pick out things that can be altered to try and stop those problem lambs coming through the system.